Reddit's losing their damn minds over Sarth having a good speed run, and what they are upset about is that they pre-cleared trash, and so it's a fake speed run. I can't believe this, dude. It's not a speed run unless you zone in and start the stopwatch right then and get pulling. This is not how speedrunning has ever worked, guys. Let's talk about some dumb shit that people have done for speedrunning. There was trying to get the right Draconids in BWL. How would you do that? You'd have a priest MC a bunch of mobs, mind vision a bunch of mobs in BWL until they got to these mobs. And then they would need a Maradon dagger. And then they could mind vision over and over and proc this dagger and get in combat with these mobs and see what their abilities are. Holy shit, exploits. And everyone did it. Everyone did it. If you ever wondered why looking at these speed runs for BWL, it seems like they have better RNG, it's because they did that. All right, guys. That's what they did. Or what about AQ40? Man, how do they have so few mobs with the mind control and the AoE fear? What do you know? They use mind vision again and they reset the dungeon. And of course, you can only do it a few times an hour, so that means you have to get ready far before raid. Oh, man. And there was stupid crap in all the other raids too. Another really big one would be Sunwell, dude. Holy shit. You were able to clear some of the trash up on top of the walls. Do you remember how you got on top of the walls in Sunwell? You had to clear like 50 mobs and then get to this staircase. And then you'd go up the staircase and you could start killing the mobs on top of the walls. Huh, how'd they kill that before they even started the raid? Yeah, they did a lot of stupid ass shenanigans. It's just really, really normal that speedrunners do all this stuff, but it's not their fault. No. I would say it's not their fault. Do they really want to have to spend 5, 6, 7 hours trying to set a raid up? No. They'd much rather zone in and the raid's just good to go and it can be a nice, fair competition. But when the mobs aren't all required to be killed by the logging software, then that means they need to find ways to avoid killing some mobs. And that's the incentive that causes all this ridiculous shit. These speedrunners, dude, this is a little bit of speculation, but I bet you they would much rather not have to do that and have to clear some more trash. I bet they don't really particularly care about saying that it's this speed. No, they care about their speed relative to their past performance and relative to other people's speeds. Okay? They're not trying to save time. Let's dispel that notion that you can save time by speedrunning. You don't. It takes a lot more time to speedrun unless your group is absolutely insanely bad and you just can't complete the raid at all. Speedrunning isn't about saving time. In the same way that being an Olympic sprinter isn't about just being able to sprint faster. It's about the competition. It's about the training. All right? Because, of course, if you just wanted to move 100 meters more efficiently, you could just save all the time in training and maybe actually move the 100 meters a little slower. Like, if it was actually about literally traversing over distance, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to train to be a competitive Olympic athlete. It's not about that in reality. You know, guys, like, it's a sport. And you do a lot of ridiculous, weird stuff for preparation and training. And this is way more fair than sports in the real world. Warcraft logs could just require that you kill all this stuff. Maybe it would cause some weird situations. So an example of this could be in 2020 in Naxxramas clears. Sometimes you'd have to wait for a patrol outside 4 horsemen because it was a required mob to kill. All right? Yes, it was a required mob to kill. So before people started doing the hunter tech where they would pull in mobs while doing Gothic, you weren't always able to reliably kill this mob in a place that wouldn't slow you down. Honestly, sucks that there'd be RNG with a run having to potentially wait on a patrol. Not great for the fairness of the game, but it's a thing that people dealt with. And, you know, it did resolve issues with people having to do strange pre-clear skips, okay? So there are ways that Warcraft logs could resolve this. Or, I mean, Blizzard could also resolve it. They could provide maps to Warcraft logs of these dungeons. There's so many things they could do. I'm not saying that either of these parties owe us that, but the idea that speedrunners need to have some strict code of ethics that they hold themselves and each other to, and that Warcraft logs wouldn't simply invalidate logs they don't like, is insane, because it wouldn't work. That's so much effort. And also, this system's way more fair than most real life sports. Like, let's talk about maybe soccer. All right, why do people flop when they get hit in soccer? Well, one of the reasons is that sometimes somebody could do something that could earn a penalty, but you want play to continue. And so you act like you're not injured, and that signals to the ref to not call it. Or you can flop and signal to the ref that if they're willing to call it, you believe it would be tactically advantageous to your team. Please call it. All right. This is a little meta thing in soccer, or football for the non-Americans. And in the NFL, so you can think American football or real football, there's similar stuff. Like, refs just have the right to be wrong. In basically all American sports, refs have the right to be wrong. And if you had a 10,000 FPS camera to prove that they made a bad call and it made you lose a bet that you had on some official sports betting platform, you wouldn't be able to sue the NFL and be like, they made me lose $20 million because the ref that they had literally called that wrong. They'd be like, tough fucking shit. It's part of the game. The refs have the right to be wrong. That's way more weird than the way speedrunning is policed. And it's totally normal, and people accept it. So I don't honestly think that these toxic casuals truly care about any notion of fairness. No, they hate the idea that other people are better than them, or that other people play in a different way. They want to just tear people down and criticize them. I don't know. It's some dark thing within them that's making them freak out about this, because they're so uninvolved. Who cares if Sarth even literally did something that was skirting like the Warcraft logs? Like, let's say that he personally, after they were about to upload the logs after their run, he's like, oh, wait, give me the log file. And he went in there and edited the fucking text file and cheated and uploaded it. Like, okay, what should happen? Warcraft log should deal with it, all right? And if they don't, it hurts the integrity of their platform. That is the cleanest solution. It is the cleanest solution for Warcraft logs to handle all the arbitration. The idea that players should be arbiters of each other is silly. It won't work. And trying to lampoon Sarth, I bet he loves it. Like, I bet the guy understands that it's getting him a lot of free reach. It's going to make his super fans think that casuals are absolute idiots. It's going to make them like him even more. The casuals that don't like him because he makes soy faces in the thumbnail going like those people probably weren't going to like him anyways. You know, I'm not into the soy face stuff, but hey, man, it probably gets some clicks. Like, good for him. You gotta make money. You gotta grow your brand. Whatever. I don't care. We shouldn't be trying to push responsibility off onto the individuals when there are platforms that can handle it much, much better. And also, it just wouldn't work on the individuals. Let's talk about another thing that happened where this is an example of the platform fixing it. Did you know the first speedruns of Nax and Wrath of the Lich King, there was a Death Knight mob that you could mind control, and it could cast Hysteria on its allies. Do you know what Hysteria does? You lose 1% of your health every second. This really sped up some runs in the very first week. So what happened? Progress did this, and so it let them kill bosses faster than anybody else ever again would basically be able to kill them. And what did Warcraft logs decide? They decided people who use this Hysteria, I'll say exploit for lack of a better word, their progression times will count. And so Progress, I believe, got the #1 time on progression. But as far as speedrun metrics, it doesn't count. And so these people, they got locked in their progression amounts on their servers, and then their speedruns got invalidated. So for example, before the second week started, none of the best guilds on progression were even in contention for getting good speedrun scores because they were all invalidated because they used this DK, bug, glitch, whatever you want to call it. That was a clean way to handle it. I think Warcraft logs just doesn't want to put the effort in on SOD, and that's fine. I don't mind it. I know they made a little post on Wowhead trying to push the responsibility off onto the players, saying, we didn't think that we'd need to police this. Like, hey guys, you can go check their Patreon, and you can also do a little bit of research about the cost per 1,000 views of advertisements that they host on their site. This is a 7-8 figure business, all right? And so, of course, they're not going to make a post that a bunch of casuals are going to read that's going to delegitimize their platform in any way. Do you really think they'd make a post and say, like, we really dropped the ball here. We didn't think it was financially viable to put in these software checks because of the mixture of cloud computing costs and also man-hour requirements to actually implement this code that runs on some cloud system. And so instead, we decided just to not handle it. And that means, people are going to be doing some weird shit. Why? Because what a casual's going to see when they see that? Be like, this is not fair. The company is not taking me seriously. Like, that's like what's going to happen. So, of course, any of these companies that are making a gajillion dollars are not going to try to be truth-seeking. They are money-seeking. And I don't mind that. I don't think there's, like, anything super unethical about Warcraft blogs having a response like that. And it's the same thing with, like, Agron's never said anything bad about the SOD team. It's, like, always, like if something bad happened that he can't skirt, it's like, oh, we forgot about it. We're going to address this in the future. That's like the worst thing that he's said about the team ever. And obviously they've done some shit that's wrong. Maybe you can't even think of anything, but they've made a lot of decisions. They've made some that are wrong, but they don't admit it ever. It's just the way it is. It's the way the economy works. Like, most people aren't super invested in the things they consume. And so when you just call yourself out, you're not doing yourself any favors, unless you want to have a tinier audience that is like super committed to your shit, which is not the way you get really, really rich with a product or a service in general. Maybe you could say Joe Rogan's like that if you think he's particularly truth-seeking. But I think most people wouldn't even say that, about Joe Rogan, even if they do like him. They just think he's entertaining, and he probably platforms stupid shit all the time, regardless of how much you do or don't like him. You'd have that opinion, I bet. It's just the way it is. People got to be able to make money. But this does mean that you can't be looking at these sources of information and not thinking about how they're super biased. So should you like speedrunning? Yeah, you should like it. It's super casual friendly to have content that encourages speedrunning. Things being very easy means that everyone gets to do it, okay? And it also means that speedrunning is more viable and people can have a more reliably good experience. Part of the reason that it's very popular in Classic is because the raids are easy and it's less painful for raid leaders to make that what the banner that they fly under is going to say. Like, we're a speedrunning guild. You could think how speedrunning got less and less and less popular as we progressed through the other versions like TBC and also Wrath the Lich King. And in my opinion, most of that is because it became harder for raid leaders to create a reliably fun experience for their members. And so they instead shifted to things like parsing because that exalts the individual more and it's easier to get people to buy in. Or if they took the compromise of trying to have the guild parse on bosses, which also helps out individuals, it just doesn't do it as much as trying to take turns for single players to, for example, do more DPS at the expense of the raid overall. Which, if you have a hard time imagining situations like that, you could think stacking power infusions on one guy, potentially even when they don't have heroism up, so that way they can do more damage. That would lower the raid's DPS if you power infusion people who weren't heroed, right? Makes sense? But that's what's going to happen. That's what's encouraged when the individual parse meta becomes the thing. It's a massively multiplayer online game. We should want things to exalt the group, to exalt guilds, to make it so that way we're really into team play. That is what I think is optimal. And the way that that plays out is that people treat each other better and they respect the team more. I think another example of this would be that Loot Council, if you can pull it off, it's a better system. It makes people respect the group, makes people understand that it takes a team to get their characters set up. These are all good things. Trying to make it so that way the game is very hard. And so it's easier to have people go for their own metrics. I don't think it's great. It's going to be really bad for the casuals. They have no idea what they're asking for. If you are sad that speedrunning has kind of gone on the decline, let me know. I know that as a raid leader myself, not anymore, but in the past, I really hated how it fell out of favor. It sucks. I thought it was so much more cool back in the day when people would brag about being in your guild due to the speeds that you had, and they'd be like, I'm proud to be a part of this team, and look, I can even get some awesome parses too, and you'd be like, I got this item, and what's something that getting an item in a speedrun LC guild means? It means I was chosen over other people to be worthy of this item. They uniquely respected me to get it. It makes the experience more meaningful. And that's really what it should be all about.